Welcome back to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Daniela Warner, and today's episode is one that is going to stretch your thinking, spark your creativity, and maybe even shift the way that you see what is possible for your business. Have you ever wondered what it would look like to take everything that you've learned from one successful business, pivot completely into a new industry, and build a franchise model that sells out an entire state in just 30 days? That is exactly what today's guest, Michele, did. Michele is the founder of Face Foundrié, an open-air facial bar franchise that launched just months before the world shut down for COVID. But before skincare, Michele built a $25 million women's clothing empire. And in this episode, she shares the story of selling her business, her clothing empire, signing away that retail business, and signing the lease for her first Face Foundrié location, all within 5 minutes. I mean, talk about trusting your gut. So we dive into the realities of franchising, from the legal foundations that you cannot afford to skip to the mindset shifts required to go from a solopreneur to a successful franchisor. Michele also shares why she follows a sisters not twins approach to brand consistency and how her franchisees balance creativity with structure. So whether you're dreaming of an expansion, considering franchising, or just love a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to build a scalable beauty brand, this is a conversation that you do not want to miss. All right, let's go ahead and play that interview. All right, Michele, welcome to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. You are the first guest that we have had on in quite a while, because we really, we were focusing on a lot of training episodes and a lot of kind of in-depth stuff. And we get a lot of pitches every single day, really. But yours really stood out as something that I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be something, this interview, this story would be so valuable to our audience. And so I'm so happy to have you here and so happy to welcome you.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here and share hopefully what I've learned, and ultimately, hopefully I spark some curiosity or inspiration with your listeners.
So let's start at the beginning, or whatever the beginning is for you. I know that you have entrepreneurial blood. This is not your first business. You had a clothing store previously, right?
Yep, exactly. So I actually graduated. I was an apparel design and merchandising major. So not in skincare. I'm actually not a certified esthetician by trade either. But I graduated from college, and myself and my business partner started a women's clothing chain back in 2010, which was like such a weird, volatile time to start a business. And then having lived through COVID, it felt like very much some PTSD. But we started a clothing business right out of college, and we ended up building it to 9 stores. It was not franchised. It was all corporately owned, and hit 25 million in revenue, all debt free. So it was fast learning curve, and I loved everything about it.
So what was the transition there? Did you sell that and you were just ready for something new, or what kind of pivoted that said like, hey, I need this, I want to make this shift into the aesthetics industry?
Great question. So it was 2017. I had my third child, and I was just riddled with hormonal acne. And the struggle of trying to find an affordable med spa that had really easy booking or approachable hours, it didn't exist. And so 2017, I sat on this idea forever of like, why doesn't something like Face Foundrié, this open air concept that truly has approachable skincare, exist in the world? And at the time, I still had my women's clothing chain, and apparel was really all I had ever known. But I could not let go of this feeling for this focused facial bar. So it was December 14th, 2018 at 10:30 a.m. I signed over the rights for my shares of my clothing store. It's still in existence. It's called Primp. And at 10:35, I signed the lease for what would become our flagship store in the Galleria for Face Foundry. So it's 5 whole minutes. I was scared to death. I'm not going to lie. Like, I knew if I gave myself any more time, I'd probably talk myself out of it. Right. But I just couldn't let go of this feeling. And skincare, I look back, and it's so easy to look back and see the obvious, like, oh, the aha moments. But I was obsessed with skincare and makeup as a kid. And I just didn't know that that would really just stick with me and evolve into something special.
So, two things that just stood out that are actually personal things. My daughter was born in 2017.
Yeah.
So, we have a child that's the same age. And my business was started on December 14th,
No
although
way.
it was 2014. So,
Okay.
two
Those are just good omens. When's
good
your daughter's
omens.
birthday?
May 5th.
Oh, mine's May 21st. So May babies.
Oh, May
Love it.
babies. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
So, you're moving into, you signed this lease. You haven't really been in the aesthetics industry I mean, you have the entrepreneurial background, but there's a lot of, as I'm sure you're well aware of now, there's a lot of industry specific, types of things. So did you go into that location immediately knowing that you wanted to franchise, or were you just trying to take this concept and say, I want to solve a problem for my community first?
for sure. That is a great question. So with my clothing chain, I actually did pursue franchising. And I love the idea of the franchising model. I think it's amazing. It attracts this entrepreneur that wants a little bit more of the framework and a blueprint laid out for them and a proven concept. So I love that idea, because I think that ultimately you bring in good people, you can grow way faster. The clothing concept, it was not the model I felt was right for franchising. There were too many nuances, lots of SKUs. It just didn't fit. But I knew whatever I did next, I wanted to franchise. So to your point, the day we opened, I was documenting everything, all of our processes. I knew that we wanted to franchise once we hit that 1 year mark. We opened March 1st, 2019. And I was like waiting for March 1st, 2020, because we'd have a year's worth of data. We could launch our franchising program. Oh, Danielle, it was going to be perfect, right? Great timing, super fast. Obviously, the world had other plans, but
Yeah, it was March 2020, the world ended. And then you were
right as I was about to launch that franchising program, I think the entire world shut down. And of course, we
that's when
were.
I had another baby in April of 2020. So I
Oh,
was like, okay, great.
yeah, I guess I'm on an extended maternity leave. Totally get that. Totally get that. Yeah. So, and I will say, to your point, I'm not a trained esthetician, and walking in, I knew that was going to be the area of opportunity for me. So I really tried to surround myself with amazing estheticians that I trusted, that I was able to work with. I mean, one I had started working with back in 2017 on my skin, and just kind of evolved from there,
Mhm.
because it is an area that I really wanted to perfect. But 90%, in my opinion, of business translates. So I was able to bring a lot of the business acumen that I'd learned through our clothing store and then working for my parents prior. It really did translate. And so I'm grateful for that. But the estheticians that signed on with us right away, they were instrumental in providing feedback as to what we should do when we launched. Protocols, all of it.
Okay, so March 2020, I'm assuming you're not launching your franchise model with everything that happened. So what was the next step there? What did you do? Because we all had to, I mean, that was such a crazy time. But I also believe that it made us so strong and so resourceful. And anytime that things, there's been a lot of natural disasters, there's been a lot of, whether it's uncertainty in an election year or all of these different types of things that happen that are challenges for business owners. I'm like, look, we made it through COVID.
Yeah.
We couldn't even do facials without a mask on the patient. So like we figured it out, and like you can do this.
Well, and it breeds such innovation, because I'll never forget, we had to furlough all of our staff members. And I remember talking to this manufacturer in the Twin Cities, and I was like, I want you to create this like plastic bubble, a dome that goes over their face, and our estheticians could just put their hands in. And thinking about like, how can you do a facial kind of under plastic to make
Yep.
sure that someone feels protected? Because even, I mean, I felt so bad for the board of cosmetology. They didn't know how to navigate this. No one did. And so it was like trying to find feedback or how we could reopen. Everybody was just kind of like awestruck and wondering, how do we do this? How do we relaunch? But I will say we were really innovative in the process and we learned a lot. And you really do, not at the time, but in hindsight, you realize how resilient you become in figuring out a way. And so for us, it was, okay, how do we use this time to really document everything and put it online? If we can't ever train in person again, what is this going to look like? We opened March 1st, 2019, like I mentioned, and within a month we knew, and part of the franchising model, I knew I wanted multiple corporate locations to show proof of concept in various demographics. So we opened our second site not long after our first. And then once COVID rolled around, we had just signed a lease for our third site. So that was really fun to kind of renegotiate and navigate and figure out how and when we could open that. But 3 was really that sweet spot to then say, okay, we have enough data to go back and launch franchising and launch our FDD with valuable insights and metrics as to how our stores did, even through a little bit of a crisis.
So when did you actually launch the franchising model? When was that?
We ended up launching January 2021, and within 30 days, we sold out the state of Minnesota, which is where we are based. All of our franchisees found us very organically. They were actually clients or friends of clients. So it was perfect because our original group of franchisees, they very much understood our mission, our brand. They aligned with what we wanted to do and how we wanted to execute it. And so there was very little education going in to having to explain what our brand and what our culture represented. And that was a huge blessing too. And a lot of our growth, I attribute to those early franchisees that were just as gung-ho, very hungry and motivated to continue to help us spread the word.
So talk to me a little bit about the difference that an entrepreneur would experience, whether they decide to become a franchisee, they know they want to open their own spa, versus just going and opening their own spa on their own. What are the primary differences, the benefits, the limitations, like to know all of it going all in? How would they decide if being a franchisee is right for them or just starting from scratch?
I think that's a great question. First of all, we chat with a lot of our franchisees and potential franchisees, and I'm very transparent. I say, Daniela, what do you love doing? What do you feel like you are the best at doing? And where do you feel like there are areas of opportunity? Because to me, that's meeting a franchisee where they're at. So if you don't love, real estate, let's say you really need to lean on us for operations or marketing. We have playbooks for all of those things. So you get to really decide, where do I want to showcase my skill set versus lean on the system to help me? And there hasn't been anything we haven't been able to tackle, accounting, if they need, legal ops, like I had mentioned, any sort of educational side of things. I think on the flip side, if someone is very entrepreneurial and they have a lot of ideas and they want to maybe they want a weekly facial where they are switching out the protocols and they are really wanting to be hands-on in their business and wanting lots of change and lots of control, I think then that is probably the route that would serve them best. And we've certainly had those conversations and those transparent kind of outlooks of, if that is the route you want to go, franchising and that model might not be the best option for you. But if you do want that consistency and leaning on education and best practices, real estate, marketing, operations, like we can help you fill all of those buckets.
What happens with a franchise when someone wants to exit? Are they able to sell the
Oh,
franchise
yeah.
or just similar as you would sell a business,
Oh,
a
yeah,
regular
absolutely.
business?
And I would argue because, it depends on a brand. I wouldn't just say like Face Foundry specifically, but a franchising model, let's say.
Hmm.
If the brand is large enough, you're going to have a much larger buyer pool as
Okay.
opposed to maybe a one-off.
And in terms of, I think the thing I'm always curious about with a franchise is, does the owner have the opportunity to choose the product lines that they want to bring in, or are there set product lines? Does the owner have the choice if they want to create a particular type of marketing promotion, or are they limited to what the franchisee or franchise is saying each month?
Great question. So we have required SKUs and required product lines that we use in some of our protocols, or we just know that they sell well retail wise. And then we have optional. And so it's very much on the owner to be able to say, hey, I live in, let's say, a southern region. I know I'm going to need more SPF, or I'm going to lean on more of the optional SKUs because our clients are providing feedback. There's a lot of optionality there within kind of the parameters we set. From a marketing standpoint, we are constantly doing customized marketing events. I would say almost daily, our franchisees are working with other businesses, influencers, they're doing pop-ups. So really in the marketing world, the options are endless with what you can do. We are just here kind of on the back end to support, to provide collateral that's consistent with the brand, making sure that the verbiage fits the brand, anything we can do then to take that off the franchisee.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And in terms of starting a franchise for yourself, like what were
Yeah.
the steps that went into that? You knew from the beginning, you obviously had a significant amount of business experience. You mentioned um, briefly that you used to work for your parents. So I'm assuming your parents were entrepreneurs as well. If you grew up with that, that kind of gets into your blood.
Yeah.
But moving into that role, that model, what can someone expect? Like, what are the blind spots that they may not be thinking about?
I think it goes back to even the conversation we have with potential franchisees. Where are your areas of opportunity, right? Not just what are you passionate about, but what are you really, really good at? Because if you're great at marketing, fantastic, own that portion. But if you're a little bit weaker at, say, accounting or finance or legal, like you need to have a very strong attorney that understands franchising. They should specialize in nothing else but franchising because it is nuanced. And so that's probably the one single best piece of advice I can pull out is if you are looking to franchise your concept, you have to have a fantastic legal team. And you have to make sure that your numbers are airtight because the franchise disclosure document is a public document and you are really opening up your business to the world. You're showing them what it costs to build it out, and you're showing potential franchisees exactly how you make money.
Hmm. Yeah, that's accounting and legal. I mean, the first thing that I did, you said you started your business and signed the lease. I started my business and I hired my accountant before $1 came in because
All right.
I am black and white. Like I don't like any gray area when it comes to the IRS. I am like such a rule follower. So
Yes.
I was like, okay, let's get that accountant in there.
So smart.
Um, and what do you think like your unique skill set, like when it comes to be like for someone to be successful at being a franchisor, if they've built one business,
Mhm.
but it is a completely different model and it
Mhm.
is, different locations can have different personalities. Before I started my company, I worked for a company called Belisante, and there are 3 location day spa, med spa in the Boston area. Huge operation, 200 employees. And incredibly systemized, incredibly well run, but every single location, even though they were exactly the same protocol, they had a different vibe. Like
Yeah.
it's in a different city. There's a different vibe of clientele that are coming in. There's a different vibe of employees that are coming in. They're still following step by step the protocols, but like your managing style, your leadership style, ensuring everybody is, connected with the core values. That was just all in the Boston area. So going across the country, there's some major cultural differences.
100%. And I think to your point, you can have this beautiful brand and lots of employees, and you have to have it systematically locked in. Your operations has to be lockstep because you want to make sure that you can replicate. And I do think that's so important, not even with franchising, because you can have corporate stores, and I felt this with our clothing brand. We had corporate stores across the Midwest, but it has to feel somewhat similar. Now, I do think Face Foundry is unique in the sense that we view our sites as sisters, not twins. And that's a little different in the franchising world. You think about McDonald's or Subway or even Great Clips. You go in, you're going to have to tear it down to the studs and rebuild it to make sure that it is the exact same model. We found that there's ways to, eliminate waste and cut costs if we work with some of the assets that are actually in a space. So I do think the sisters, not twins model for us has actually been really beneficial. But then the challenge becomes making sure that it feels very cohesive state by state and space by space.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if this is the right way to ask, but like Starbucks is a franchise, but then you go individually in each Starbucks and they'll have like the local, like
Yeah.
here's the Hawaii cup and here's the whatever cup, so there's something that's kind of picking up on that vibe. Is that what you mean? Or you're like, it's just not like a cookie cutter, like every real estate space is exactly the same. Like, are you trying to
Yeah.
connect with your local community?
100%. And we usually do that through like business to business partnerships. The assets of the space, like for example, I'll use our Milwaukee location. It was actually a former Starbucks. Beautiful exposed brick walls, gorgeous floors. And instead of tearing it out, it felt like such a big waste of money, right? To put sheetrock over these walls and replace the hardwood. It was, wait a minute, we could save the franchisee a lot of money and also still make it feel like Face Foundry. How can we use some of the assets that are available to us and make it really work? And another example that comes up often is like the bathroom layout. We're oftentimes able to kind of repurpose layouts because of our square footage size. It's not your typical larger med spa. It's right around that 1,500 square feet. So there's some flexibility.
How many treatment rooms do you guys usually have?
So we don't have rooms, but it's all
Oh,
open
you
air.
have the open with
The
yes, with
curtains.
just,
Yep. And
okay.
that's actually served us really well because we host face parties a lot. And so it's a great way for people to come in if it's their bachelorette or birthday with their friends. They can rent out the whole space. You can pull back the curtains and it feels very communal and fun,
Mm-hmm.
which face parties have been a huge hit for us. So we don't have the walls, which is also something that, restricts build out and cost.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember seeing that when I was going through the website, and having that kind of open air concept. So, any piece of advice that you want to share as we're wrapping this up for either franchisees or franchisors, like thinking about something that you've learned across your journey?
Oh, let's see here.
I know it's a
That
big,
is a
long
big
question.
question.
What have you learned in your
Well,
entrepreneurial
yeah.
journey?
And I would say like it's hard to sum up in just one answer. I don't want this to come across cheesy, but like believe in yourself. And I think that confidence goes such a long way. And that's much easier said than done. But if you are super passionate about an idea, about a business, whatever it is, hold on to that because most people search their entire lives to be passionate about something and really be moved by something. And for me, I feel very fortunate, like skincare. I thought it was apparel until I discovered skincare and how much we help our clients. And our mission is just very felt. And so if you can find something that you are truly moved by, I think that's so special. So hold on to that and be confident in that decision.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. All right. So where can our listeners find you, follow you, connect with you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. Face Foundrié with an IE at the end.com, or on all of the social channels. It's spelled that exact same way. Otherwise, my personal Instagram is Michele with one L, Manifests.
Oh, Michele Manifest. Love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. This is such an incredible episode, so inspiring. I love celebrating women who have accomplished big things, and it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Quick reminder before you leave. If your spa growth still depends on you doing more, it's time for a shift. Watch The System Shift, a free training designed to help spa owners break past that $25,000 to $35,000 month plateau without adding more treatment hours. You'll learn the CEO level systems that help you scale while protecting your time, your values, and your peace. Go to grow.autoaesthetics.com/podcast and watch The Systems Shift. That's grow.autoaesthetics.com/podcast.